Hello, welcome to ChuckChat for the 25th of May, and a full week with a lot of announcements coming from Google I/O, but also a number of other things. The other labs did not stay quiet. Governments rung in, infrastructure moved ahead, and we had some interesting science development. So looking forward to diving in with you. So the tech conference, Google I/O, so many. I could spend the whole episode talking about the things that they talked about, but I will not do that. I'm going to try and cover a couple of different pieces that I think really matter, and then some bits about kind of trust and where governments are stepping in, and even more. So first, in the agentic era has been declared by Google. They're now taking a number of different things and they're integrating in the new model Gemini into all the things that they do. There's a couple of different bits that I think are interesting. There's now several places where you can do the same things in more than one location in terms of like video or other different chat. But I think they'll distill that part down as they go. Right now, they're trying to meet customers where they are. They have some multi-billion user things where people are already using these different things, but Gemini app now coming together with a number of the other different aspects of what it is that they have. The ability to use the Google Gemini 3.5 Flash everywhere. So it is actually an on par model with some of the rest of the best in class. This is just the Flash version. So there's still Pro, there's still normal coming. And so I expect them to be well ahead of some of the others. Then the Google Omni. It's interesting in this particular one because Google is the only frontier model that's still really pursuing models that cover all of the different areas. So Omni is multimodal. It covers video, it covers audio, it covers all the things, generating them in real time. You can actually feed it a video and then get feedback and do edits, etc. So lots of things happening inside of there. I think this is part of their bet in the world model space that they will have AI that covers many things. I think this is one of those places where Google actually is ahead of the game because they are still really doing a lot of research in that area of just AI in general. And they have many teams working on many different potential approaches and then bringing them together to actually create value inside the products. The daily brief now is a new feature that they're rolling out in Gemini. That's been one of my favorite sorts of features anyway. I think that's a great thing. And then they have got their own Gemini Spark, so their own personal agentic experience. So we're looking at you, OpenClaw. And so it runs actually on Google hardware and equipment. But now everybody's got to have a strategy to be able to compete with the personalized agents in the agent world. So we'll see which ones make the cut as it goes through there. But all of these things are showing up in Calendar and Gmail and Docs and YouTube and Chrome and Maps and all those products that everybody uses all the time. That user base is something that they do want to protect, and they're going to continue to go through. There's been some talk around, okay, do we trust Google with putting the AI bit further forward inside of search, and will they start to is that right for the content creators, and is that right for everybody? That'll get sorted out, I think. They have to do this or someone else will, for sure, which is not always a great reason to do something, but I do think that they'll continue to push for content creation. They'll continue to promote that content creation and figure out how to be able to do compensation for content creators while at the same time also leading with AI in all the things that they do. All right, enough about Google. This one is interesting to me. So the two different things, and I think the reason why I combine them together is you see nation states moving forward, and so OpenAI and Malta, the government of Malta, agreed that they're now going to put ChatGPT Pro in the hands of all of its citizens. So with literacy and other things that go along with that. Meanwhile, we also have the Pope this morning. The actually announcement. I had queued up some different pieces because I had read the things that were coming. The Pope and religions in general are also starting to weigh in on AI. The Pope Leo is now warning, hey, there's some weapons and some things in here that they're beyond human control, and this is he criticized AI misinformation. He published this thing, the Magnifica Humanitas, and it likens it back to one of the original Pope Leo's things around humans and around the time of our right to work and many other different things that the church weighed in on. So it's the from a dignity, a labor point of view, this is it's not it politics, it's religion, it's getting into everything that we do, and I just the beginning. It's going to continue to get deeper and bigger. It's only a matter of time before we have an AI religion, I expect, or and or kickbacks along it. It's going to become a talking track for politics on each side, regardless of your country. We're in a time where, with the acceleration and the things that are going through, we're just going to see more and more. This is exciting news where, and it's important to cover this as an answer. I don't think it is the only answer, but it is one where people could start to expect to be able to understand where their images came from and where what it is that they're looking at from a deep fake or not deep fake, using the C2PA as a standard. You've got Google and OpenAI, both of which are large mainstream image generation engines, where it's now putting that synth ID. You've got other participants as well. So music and other things are starting to show up with that. And they're going to build it into browsers so that you can easily recognize what's going on and what's real and what's not. Now, people who are doing things locally, people will still strip different things out. You'll see. So it's not this is not the be all answer that will solve all deep fakes, but it makes it harder for someone to be able to generate some of those different things. Bad actors are still going to be bad actors. They will figure out a way to be able to get around that sort of thing. But this is a meaningful move, and it allows people to start to look for, hey, where did this come from? And I can trace the lineage of these sorts of things. So the next section is around AI becoming more and more of an ongoing stack, and where the things actually matter. So we're seeing it in capital markets, we're seeing it in software, of course, energy. I've talked about that to no end. And so big moves in the world of energy that are data driven and AI related. We're seeing NextEra planning to buy Dominion. It's a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. And the reason for this is that you got to have power to be able to power these different data centers. It is enough that it is moving and shaping utilities and acquisitions, mergers and acquisitions. So bottleneck is not just chips. It is not just can you build the different pieces. It's backyards. It's the ability to actually have space to be able to do it, and then be able to put the power where it is that you actually need it. This is why we're going to continue to see more and more development in this section. SpaceX is a lot in the news. There's all kinds of things that are coming up here where they've reportedly moved back their IPO timeline. So June 12th is the target now that's being reported, and biggest IPO ever in time. And they're the goals are huge, right? They're connecting space, they're connecting networks, they're connecting broadband, they're connecting AI models, they're connecting data centers, they're connecting power. All of that is through this ecosystem of things that are all coming together. And of course, there's positives and there's negative reporting around everything. And just like with this particular case, it's they're burning through SpaceX money to fund AI and bring these other things forward. The bet is that bet, and this is, if you listen to Musk talk, he's right up front around this is the future. We're going to build a Dyson swarm and be able to pull all those pieces back. You get out of the not in my backyard, you tap the sun for a near unlimited power, or as far as we're concerned at the current society, unlimited power. Big goals, and I wouldn't bet against him, but I think there's still a lot of things to do. This is not new news, but AI is the structured script now for someone's doing a restructure. We've got news coming out of Standard Chartered banking, basically, and the reason, part of why I included this one is I was personally offended by the way that he described it, the lower value human capital, that they're focusing AI. We're going to see, even where it's not AI, we're going to see AI blamed for things. We also are seeing Meta. Meta has a fairly large restructure, 7,000 jobs affected, a large number of jobs that they are not going to hire as well. I teased it this last week, talked a little bit about it because we knew that it was coming. And now it's actually they've pulled the trigger on this piece and sent out a, hey, we could have handled this better, we could have communicated some of these things better. But part of why this matters is it either can be part of the traditional cost restructuring and trying to capture more value story, and or it can be part of actually AI enablement. And it matters because one redesigns work and builds new work, and one is just a better way for them to justify cuts and then hope that software fills the gaps. And I we're going to have to watch this in every single company that's making these things. It's going to be news that continues to hit. Uh, this one, so Musk lost the lawsuit around, hey, you can't just go from a nonprofit to a for-profit. And the reason why he lost was not necessarily that his facts weren't in order, or wasn't that they did this and it was okay. It was he waited too long. That's basically what the decision is, and thus also it also makes it less likely for him to win in an appeal, because if you pass the legal statute of limitations, then you're past it. And they said that he knew about this years before, and he didn't bring it to action at that point. And so now it's really just that he's a competitor, and so he's trying to drag them through the mud. Now, this is still not great, right? I think the precedent here is one of, okay, hey, why don't you start a multi-billion-dollar not-for-profit, then flip to for-profit and make billions of dollars. People may start with very good and noble means, but when there's billions of dollars at stake, people will drift. And so this is a classic case of that. And it's not just a soap opera; it's the reality of where things are. Onward to science. There's some really cool stuff happening in science. It continues to be well worth talking about. And there was some very exciting things, I think, this week that came out. So this one is one where this is a proof that came from OpenAI. If you actually have read through about this and read the details of it, the prompt that they gave was actually not particularly insightful or in depth. It wasn't a tune specific model, it was just one of the general models. And it helped to disprove a geometry conjecture that has existed for, let's say it was like 50 years, 40 years, a long time, where people have said, yep, this is probably the best answer that we can get. It wasn't a proof, but it was the ability to say, this is when you're measuring the surface of an area, measuring it with a set of points in a plane is the easiest way to be able to do that. And it actually proved a way to be able to do it differently. Not necessarily this is the best way. It didn't actually build all those things, but it gave a counter example that said, actually, if you do these sets of things, you can get an even more accurate measure. And so it's interesting because there's a lot of people who have spent time on this. It's interesting because this shift is one where people have talked about for a while. Well, when it comes up with something new, then I'll be interested. Well, hey, this is new. This is different. This is things that humans have not solved for a while. But it also took humans to be able to do it as well. So it's a pairing and a co-working, which leads into this one. So the co-scientist move is now one of the biggest moves in research and science. And so getting AI scientists or AI co-scientists that work along with scientists are accelerating a number of different places, whether you're talking DeepMind and the work that they're doing there, or whether you're talking recursion. And they're bringing in things that are advancing healthcare, that are advancing science in general. They're getting a larger set of search things, the ability to bring together, handle some of the paperwork, the publishing pieces, the how do you scan through results, all of those sorts of things are accelerating science. And that acceleration is important. It's going to help us to be able to be there. But there's also, in the same nature, publish the a editorial piece on why they're still humans and humans still matter in science, and they do. How do we pick what it is that's going to matter? How do we work on things with ethical judgment? How do we know, okay, this is the validation bits that actually matter? So it's a co-creation sort of a thing, and I think you're going to see more of this go through. It's interesting to me because this, go back in time a year plus, it was all right. It's going to disrupt all of coding, but that's as far as it'll go, because that's, yeah, sure, coding, we can prove those different types of things. Well, it's disrupting science. It's not replacing science, just like it didn't replace coding, because they're still programmers, and programmers are still working, saying, okay, what's good, and here's taste, and this is what the right output is, and here's how those things go. They're not doing that busy work of actually the coding bits themselves everywhere. The same sort of thing on the science front, and we're going to continue to see this with different fields. Evolution, not replacement. I think we're going to see a lot more of those sorts of things. Uh, on the day that Google I/O started, it was announced that Karpathy was moving to Anthropic. Didn't disrupt all of the Google news, but it is big news. I think if you look at this and you look at what he's been working on, he's been working on recursive self-learning and being able to bring some of those things together. This is a guy who's now worked at OpenAI. He's worked at Tesla. He's the guy who's responsible for a lot of the self-driving features that are within Tesla, as the head of those types of things. And so him going to Anthropic, I would. There's people who are starting all sorts of wonderful theories around why he would go there, but to me, they've got access to large amounts of hardware, and there's only so much that even a guy like him can get access to be able to do that and to push the very envelope. And so he's going to be jumping into research and helping with pre-training and building some of that data, and the recursion loop that we have been talking about is what he is squarely pointed at. And so I think Claude pointing at Claude, improving Claude, and Anthropic getting better, that's been their goal for a long time. I think this is what he's diving back into, and he's talking about, hey, over the next couple of years, there's going to be a big difference made here, and that's what he wants to be a part of. You cannot blame him for wanting to be in the middle of it and have access to that hardware. This one that is fascinating to me is AI assisted. The AI Atlas is sort of a biological microscope that they scanned mice down to the detail level, down to the cellular level. They were able to build some of these different things and then recognize different items. The particular example that was given was, hey, you could see damage and stress around obesity within the mice. But the fact that they're doing this and they can go down to that level and actually get the visuals down to that level, I think whether that is meaningful for human level treatment or not, the scanning pieces will be for sure. And so I think there's some interesting developments that will come from this in both the near term and the long term. And this, I continue to talk about how medication and medicines and treatments and plans are going to be bespoke to the individual. This is another example of that, where the 17,000, they scanned through 17,000 middle-aged and older adults. They looked at dementia, and they found that actually there's a number of different factors, including obesity and depression and many other different things that make it worse or better for different individuals, and that there is a difference between the sexes, male and female responses to a number of these different things, and the impact that it actually has is much bigger and wider. So again, richer, detailed pathways for specific knowledge on individuals continues to rise and become very important. Related between this being security moves to AI speed or continues to move at AI speeds or moving at AI speeds, but the truth is security is highly impacted by AI and what all is going on inside of there. So this paper was released over the course of this week, and so it's basically social engineering works on AIs too. So I read some other different pieces that I thought were interesting around the more that they're building in reasoning and thinking on models, the harder it is to actually work around some of these different things, because the model starts to realize it because it's thinking through different possibilities. But being able to take this in a multi-shot way and going at it, they've shown that it's subject to repeat and treatment just like if a human would be, and so it's interesting to see. It means basically, hey, you can't just keyword block, you can't just specific action block. There has to be a more systemic approach to being able to ensure security and capability. And then more from the world of Glasswing, the more updates that came out. The bit that I thought was interesting around this one is that there was coverage that reported 10,000 high or critical severity vulnerabilities across different partner software systems inside of here. This came from the Hacker News, and they've already fixed a number of them. There was Anthropic released an update around, hey, there's been this many, and this is the type of things that we're seeing and fixing. But the bottleneck now, and I talked about this in an earlier one, is people. It is, what is the right one to fix? The throughput to be able to do the fix, even if you're just doing this stuff with coding. How do you do it? When do you announce it? When do you talk to people? How do you work through it? How do you get the release management pieces going? There's a whole lot of secondary effects. It's not just hey, we found a bug, or hey, we found a vulnerability. This one I thought was interesting. So Perplexity has been in the news for a variety of different reasons of late. This one they've open sourced a product called Bumblebee, which will run on a Mac and scan the developer's surface. Right, so it actually comes as a Go binary. It will do all the different baseline pieces. It has the scanning capabilities to be able to watch for and scan for issues in the world where we're adding more and more MCPs, where things are, you got different services that are running, and many people are doing lots of things on their devices, and we're still working with AI, and we got a lot of that ecosystem. These sorts of things are going to become important as a uh, one step in the engagement of security. And then this one, I like this as an example. This is not a one where I'm saying avoid this at all costs, but it's a good practical example of places where things are hard. It turns out that physical reality is hard, and this is part of why you may have heard me before say I think robotics, while we're making huge advances and it's going so fast, it's not as easy as just being able to feed the right tokens. I think it's a solvable problem, and I do believe we will get there. But so robotaxis, they had to suspend service in a number of different places. Waymo has recently added highway capabilities. They've had a number of different safety issues and concerns, and the reasons for those are things like flooding on the road. One of a empty car, went into the flood and then got stuck there. It's had issues with construction. It's had issues where it didn't pull over when police wanted it to pull over. These are not necessarily, don't take this as a Waymo is failing sort of a story. It's more of a, this is hard. Scaling is hard. This is where the physical world makes training good, training as much as you can, but it sort of falls back to that standard statement of the planning is critical and plans are useless. Training is critical and training is useless. At the same time, when you meet reality, you've got to deal with different factors. So that concludes the episode for today. I'm excited to see the continual level of invention and innovation, and I think it's driving our society in many positive ways. I know there's concerns growing in its level of trust, and we got to be able to have the right open set of conversations and dialogues around it. Governance is important, and how we treat humans as humans. It's exciting to see some of that starting to elevate. My concern is, of course, people weaponizing that sort of stuff for their own gains. But the fact that we are talking and addressing a number of these different things, I think, is going to be critically important as we continue to go down. So hopefully this has been useful for you. You found my non-hype version of the AI news to be informative. If so, give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you get an alert when it goes through, and I will look forward to seeing you next time.